Vyse is Valorant's new Sentinel agent, and a lot of people are underestimating how good she is. Between the versatile flash, the unbreakable wall, and the ability to disable the enemy's weapons, there are so many things that set Vyse up to be a really successful release. I ran a poll and a lot of you guys already thought she seemed to be on the stronger side of things, but let's take a look and break down all of the different cooldowns, stats, and use cases we have gameplay of. By the end of the video, I reckon I'll have you convinced that Vyse is even stronger than you first expected. Right off the bat, let's look at just how powerful her signature ability is. Arrose is essentially a flash that you can place on a wall and pop later in the round. To activate the flash, all you have to do is hit the E key again. There is no animation that plays, so your gun is out the entire time. You don't even need to be looking at the rose. There is also no range limit, so you can activate it from anywhere on the map. Immediately, that makes it insanely strong to use on your own, since every other flash would normally require you to put your gun away at some point, but that isn't the case here. That's not even taking into account the way that you can set up teammates to swing off your flash, again, without you even needing to be there. Compared to other flashes, I put them side by side, and it seems almost identical to a breach flash in terms of the wind up time, being 0.5 seconds, and then the full flash duration, being 2 seconds. On top of matching the stats of a breach flash, Arrose even gives audio cues if you hit an enemy. Here's what it sounds like if no one is hit.
I'm gonna flash.
And here is the audio if you do hit an enemy.
I'm flashing.
Last player standing. Good hit.
So the flash itself will sound different, and it is sort of intuitive and changes tone similar to a sky flash, but additionally there is even a voice line for Vyse saying good hit if an enemy is flashed by the Arrose. On top of all that, the cooldown on this flash is insanely low. Directly from the clips that Riot uploaded, we can see that it's only on a 20-second cooldown, and you're able to pick this ability up and redeploy it throughout the round. In this clip here, you can see it's even possible to retrieve it straight through walls, and in this case the cooldown is completely unaffected. The potential information gathering for this ability is pretty strong. Think of the way you used to use a sky flash right at the start of the round to see if there were any enemies there. You can probably do a similar thing here with Arrose. The only slight drawback to using this flash so aggressively is that if the enemies see it being placed, they'll have a chance to break it. It seems like only 0.8 seconds after being put down, the flash is ready to be popped, as that's how long it takes for the flash keybind to appear on your HUD. Even then, the fact that it can break after being placed is one of the very few downsides I could think of to what's otherwise an insane ability. Arrose will definitely be less versatile on the attacking side of things, since the enemy team will likely destroy it if you just place it right in the line of sight without applying any other pressure to them. Having said that, this gives Vyse something to do on attack if she wants to play with her team, and there is no other Sentinel in the game that has this much initiating power. Then we've got Vyse's C ability, called Razorine. There's a little bit less to talk about here, and I don't think these are going to be too crazy, but let's go over what we know. You can buy 2 charges at 150 credits each. They only deal damage if you actually try to move through the vines, so if you stay in place you won't take any damage. Since it doesn't deal any damage to a still target, this ability won't be too strong to put on the spike in a post-plant situation. In general, you probably want to be thinking of it as a predominantly slowing ability that also happens to deal damage, rather than vice versa. Razorine does have a fairly long duration though. In this clip from Josh Secchi, you can see I start the timer immediately when the effect appears, and then it's only just finished disappearing 10 seconds later. The Razor area itself is active for 8 seconds, with roughly a second on either side for the ability to activate and fade. Also, just to clarify, this ability does not seem to give any information. Instead, you choose when to activate it, similar to a Killjoy Nanoswarm. I couldn't find any footage of whether or not it makes sound when moving through it like a Sage Slow, so I'll check that when I get early access tomorrow. To me, the slow seems not that oppressive, and if we compare it to say a Chamber or again a Sage Slow, this one seems almost negligible. Then the damage is only going to be 6 per tick if you try and move out. So you can see here in this clip, running out from the center deals around 24 damage, which means that even if for whatever reason you need to run across the entire ability, it'll only deal around 50 damage to you. While the Razor Vines have low damage and not much of a slow, I do think that those two pretty weak effects come together to form a decent ability. You'll still find value out of them if they're placed well, but I would say this is the weakest part of Vyse's kit. Next, let's take a closer look at Vyse's Q ability, which is the wall called Shia. It's only going to have 1 charge and costs 200 credits to buy. As soon as an enemy steps over the line on the ground, the wall comes up pretty quickly, meaning there isn't much time to react, and it's pretty likely to split people off from their team. Also, in case you missed it, this wall is going to be indestructible, so you can't break it like a Sage wall. The full uptime for Shia seems to be around 7 seconds. From the moment the enemy crosses over the line, there is a 0.8 second delay before the wall begins to form, but the wall goes from nothing to fully formed super quickly, around 0.3 seconds total. Then again, like I said, it's at full height for pretty much 7 seconds, maybe a fraction less than that, and then it rapidly drops down again as well. That duration is going to be a massive pain for any duelists caught on the wrong side of the wall. 7 seconds might not sound like long, but let's put that into context for some of the duelist's entry abilities. Neon's wall only lasts for 4 seconds, and even both of Jet's smokes combined last for 5 seconds. Those sorts of abilities are likely to fade and leave their user stuck out in the open before their team can help. The one thing I will point out is that I couldn't tell just yet how jump peeking is going to interact with this ability. Like, it's entirely possible that you can bait the wall into activating by quickly jumping past and hurrying back before it goes up. That's another thing I'll test when I get early access soon, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and stay tuned for that. It's also worth mentioning that you can technically use Shia to watch your flank if you want, as it would achieve almost the exact same function as a Cypher Trap wire. I'd personally say it's a lot more impactful to use slowing down the defender's retake, but at the end of the day it costs 200 credits and there will be very few ways to bypass it, so it could also be a pretty reliable way to monitor your flank. There are going to be a lot of creative ways that you can use this ability to interfere with the enemy beyond simply putting it on the main choke point. The first things that come to mind are using it to deny ult orbs, or even locking people in with a spike and getting an ally Brim or Sova to ult them. I was almost surprised Shia didn't cost more than 200 credits, and I'm really excited to make some setups revolving around this ability. Finally, we come to Vyse's ultimate called Steel Garden. It requires 8 ultimate points to use, and the range is the same as the volume circle on the map, so it expands everywhere around you rather than just the direction which you're facing. This is going to be a crazy strong initiation tool and will make it feel a lot more impactful on attack and when retaking compared to most Sentinels. When it comes to how long her ultimate lasts for, the exact duration of the jammed effect is 8 seconds. It does take a really long time between her using the ability and your gun actually jamming. In fact, it seems like you have a little over 3 seconds to prepare yourself to use only a pistol. I saw probably hundreds of comments yesterday of people asking if you can simply drop your gun or pick up a new one to dodge this ultimate, but that is not going to be the case. You can think of jammed as a status effect on you rather than on your weapon, so no primary weapons will be available to you for the duration of this ability. To answer another popular question, this ultimate will have no effect against other abilities, so things like Chamber's Headhunter and Tour de Force will be completely unaffected by Steel Garden and can be used normally. This ultimate is going to be insanely impactful for eco rounds. Consider how strong jet knives are for leveling the playing field when you'd otherwise not have enough money for a full buy. It's a similar concept here, where you can take a round that would ordinarily be almost a throwaway and all of a sudden make it winnable. Like I mentioned earlier, Steel Garden will be devastating when retaking the site. All the enemies are likely to be nearby and grouped up, so you'll pretty consistently hit multiple of them with your ult, making for a pretty easy retake. One thing I will say is that as enemies get more and more used to bursting a Vyse, good players will start buying sheriffs as they see you getting close to having your ultimate up. Even then, a rifle against a sheriff is a massive advantage, and I'm sure there will be plenty of times, especially in ranked, where the enemy simply isn't aware or not paying attention, and you'll be able to run into a bunch of classics. Overall, Vyse seems like an incredibly fun to play Sentinel Initiator hybrid who'll be a thorn in the side of any duelist trying to run it down. Having said all that, it is definitely early days. I'm well aware people normally overreact and think that agents are way stronger than they actually are on launch, but I genuinely think that Riot have released a character here who won't need multiple buffs to become relevant. That's just my opinion though, and I'd love to know what you guys think about Vyse, so let me know your thoughts in the comments.